Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. I am Blaine Gilmer here with Trent Smallwood, and we are coming to you here live on the UGA Sports YouTube channel here on a Monday night to do what we always do every Monday night, Trent, and it is talk about Georgia football recruiting, and we do it all thanks in part to Turner Wood and Smith Insurance in cooperation with Auto Owners Insurance. Make sure to check both those companies out. Been around for over 100 years and going to help you out with all your insurance needs. But, Trent, right now, man, we're getting into the nitty gritty. We're a month away from the early signing period today, I believe. And in this next month, there's going to be things happen that no one saw coming. And then there's also going to be unprecedented things happening with this transfer portal window opening, the new rules that Kirby Smart talked about in his press conference a little bit today with, coaches not being able to go out on the road a week at SEC championship, all this kind of stuff taking place. So first off, Trent, thanks for joining us. For you don't know, on Trent's little vacay here, he's not in his normal circumstance. So, but he's being a team player. So, thanks for that. And man, what do you think about this late push here in this class?
I mean, they're doing everything possible to bring in a top tier class like normal. Kirby, this is we talk about year in and year out. Kirby is always one step ahead of what everybody in the rest of the country is thinking when it comes to recruiting. So, I think there's not many official visits left to be taken. You're gonna see some in December, but there's not many more left. And you're gonna see the coaches on the road, and you're gonna see who hits the portal. That's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is the portal. What's going to happen? What's going to happen at Texas A&M? What's going to happen at Miami? Some of the stuff's already going public. And I think you're going to see some more around the country that players that didn't play as much this first year. So yeah, the portal is going to be wild, and I'm interested to see what names go in there, and and what names are pursued by Georgia because they're going to have that short window too.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if any Georgia players go in there for sure. Because here's the dynamic: you have some guys, of course, that have a chance, a legitimate chance to get a national championship ring, another national championship ring for many of them. And even if somebody might not be happy with their necessarily playing time or may want to maybe hearing, chirping things here and there in their ear about, hey, you could get more NIL or something if you went over here and stuff like that. How many guys are willing to, kind of alienate themselves from a team during a championship run like this? So I think Georgia might be the beneficiary of their own success when it comes to this first little portal window period here in December, whereas some other teams, aka maybe a Tennessee or Alabama or these other schools that are totally out of it now, they may be a little bit fearful come December 3rd what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because the way this new recruiting setup is, you got to have the spots to get the spots. But Georgia's in a situation where they are in a national championship run, so they're not necessarily I guess force people out to the portal this early, or kids might not want to transfer at this point, and it's just going to be interesting, this whole dynamic of how it takes place, and they're trying to mix stuff up and see what works, and we'll see if this one works, but it'll be interesting to see come December 3rd.
Absolutely. We got a lot of people in here watching. We got Anton Sampson from Columbus, Georgia on my mind, from Townsend, Georgia. Drop in where you guys are watching from as we go throughout here. Of course, Jeremy Barber, as always, from Logan. Jeremy Barbary from Loganville in here with us. Where else? We got Brad Pitt from Dahlonega. So we got lots of guys. Hey, Bo Robinson from Gainesville, our neck of the wood there, Trent. So we
I
got him.
know, Bo.
Yeah, I know Bo as well. Bo was a heck of a little ball player, man. When he was playing as well, he could come on here and talk some ball for sure. Jetta AB 35, Jacksonville, North Carolina. So we got lots of people in here with us. Dare Senior once again. All of our regulars in here. So make sure to do us a favor, hit the like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. This YouTube channel is growing unbelievably, and it's because of you guys. We really appreciate all the support.
I can tell you that there's not much action in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee and I'm in Pigeon Forge, and the streets are mighty quiet here the past couple nights. So
People wearing
um,
black, all black instead of the orange.
I, I mean, I don't know really. They're still trying to figure out how to stop South Carolina, I think. So um, it is very cool. It's a good weekend to be here. It's cold, but it's definitely ain't much action out here.
Yeah, you truly get a nice quiet vacation with the evolved nation subdued up there in Tennessee. So absolutely, we got vault questions as always. We're going to be knocking out, but and talking about momentum with some guys that necessarily weren't in the picture a couple of weeks ago, Trent, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I wanted to kind of touch on I was just thinking over college football in general this weekend and the position that Georgia is in and seeing all these close games, right? That the top four teams in the country have. Of course, Tennessee losing, other teams that have lost over the years or over the last couple of weeks that maybe weren't supposed to in certain games. And, we're at a point now where we cover the Georgia Bulldogs on a daily basis. That's what you and I do. I mean, we keep up with it on a daily basis. And we see all the complaints, all the talks here and there, maybe, oh, well, Georgia didn't do this against a Kentucky team and stuff like that. But it made me think that, man, two undefeated SEC records in a row to back undefeated seasons in the SEC. I don't care who you're playing or not playing on that schedule. That's an unbelievable feat. And a lot of it has to do with not only the way Kirby Smart and Todd Monken and Glenn Schumann, of course Dan Lannon before that, are coaching this team, but also it just speaks to the not only the talent that Georgia's bringing in on a consistent basis, Trent, recruiting wise, but also going and getting the right fits on certain guys. Because I think you've seen the downfall of even in Alabama in this era of the transfer portal that has not necessarily adhered to their normal standards of bringing people in who are kind of Alabama men type deal, character wise, and also miscalculated on the portal a little bit.
Yeah, I think that Georgia's done a good job of holding on to their roster basically. I know they lost Jermaine Burton and they've lost a couple guys along the road, but they've done a good job of holding on to what they've recruited. They've done a good job in the development department. I think if you look at defensive line ratings and go back the last 4 years, there's not much difference between Georgia and Alabama. And Alabama's might be a little bit better, but I think Georgia has done a lot better job developing that talent, keeping that talent on campus, developing it. And you saw coming off of last year, they're like, no way that defensive line, is going to be good. I mean, they lost, 4 first-round picks. Well, this is kudos to Trey Scott is he had guys ready. He had those guys, Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse, and Zion Logue. He had these guys ready to play, and then they did take snaps last year and backup roles, but they also go up against Georgia's offensive line every day in practice, and they've done a good job developing. And Glenn Schumann at the linebacker position has done a good job having Munden and having Dumas Johnson ready to go to fill the shoes of last year. And then you got veteran guys like Davis and Tresman Marshall behind them. So they have a good mixture of not only great players but great leaders that might still be in a backup role, but they're playing big roles.
Yeah, I think when you contrast some of the things like what Alabama's going to need more of is guys like Brian Robinson who are willing to wait their turn, and like Georgia's done with Ryan Davis, at inside linebacker being able to help this year and do some things like that. There's guys that have been willing to wait their turn and things like that. So I think that's a unique thing that Kirby Smart hit it on a press conference the other day. Where they're looking for guys. He said, you assume everybody's going to be an unselfish person, all that kind of stuff. But I think the character evaluation, to your point and what you're saying, is a lot bigger of an element for it than for Georgia than a lot of people and maybe even a lot of programs go into. There's going all the way back to the Zach Evans thing, where make no mistake about it, he was he was set to go to Georgia. They turned him away because of some issues with character and all that kind of stuff. So, I just want everybody to, if you are a Georgia fan, if you are enjoying this run, and of course everybody wants to see, on our message boards and stuff, they want to see the offense always execute in the red zone and nobody make mistakes and questionable decisions and stuff like that. But just kind of enjoy what you're seeing right now, because it's a rare thing as you see some of these other schools suffering losses and things like that maybe they aren't supposed to. But it's the recruiting and then the coaching and that connection piece that Georgia's hit on the last 2 years. It's kind of making it a pretty special run here, Trent.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that talking to recruits and people every day, they will come out and what the Georgia staff will do is they'll come out and they'll say, okay, we know you can play football, so now we're going to spend the next however long evaluating your character, evaluating how you are in the classroom, talking to your teachers. They
The
spend
janitor
countless
in the
amount.
hallway.
Yeah, they spend countless amount of time talking to you, janitors, teachers, the lunchroom people, your principals, and not only that, they'll talk to they'll go and talk to their parents, talk to them at work, talk to their parents' bosses. I mean, they do their homework, and they want genuine guys in there that are going to represent the university in the right way, and families that are going to represent Georgia the right way. And I think they've done a good job and with that, with landing the talent they have, along with the with how they are as just young men, and how they just watch them. I think it's just so interesting to watch from the time that we have the opportunity to interview them as juniors or seniors in high school, to what they are as sophomores and juniors. Seeing them as captains on the field, seeing them in the locker room after the game, in their post game interviews, just seeing how much they've matured, and a lot has to do with the way they run the program at the University of Georgia. They run it top notch, they run it first class, and they're 29-1 or whatever they're in the last 30 games, and everybody else in the SEC has 2 losses this season. So they're doing things the right way, and they're winning ball games.
And to stay there by it can't just all be development and coaching, because at the end of the day you do have to have that talent, and that's what we're here to do, is talk about that talent acquisition and talk about recruiting. So here we go. We're going to start off the way this works. Guys in the chat, we appreciate you all being in there. We're going to get to your questions here in just a minute. Continue to chat kind of amongst yourselves in there. If we see something throughout, we'll throw it up here. But we always hit our loyal members over at UGASports.com, the Vault members first. So we're going to get to their questions. And the first one we have here, Trent, is from Pine Tree, who, always is one of our loyal questioners here. And he says, any big timers from the 23 class expected to visit Athens this weekend? Trent, usually this type of weekend, noon kickoff, staff is about to be getting ready for an SEC championship game. So they're not going to be spending much time with people. They're going to be getting right into preparation for LSU after this. I don't think you'll see as many big time names, maybe some commits come back into town, but there was a report by Adam Gorney of Rivals that Matayo Uiagalelei he's going to be coming in a couple weeks, and he could possibly want to get an in-game environment. So if that's the case, maybe he makes the trip out from California.
Yeah, I don't expect many guys. You might see a couple commits pop in. I don't expect to see many targets pop in, for the simple fact that, like you said, they're going to start preparing for LSU at 3:48. The minute that game's over on Saturday afternoon, and the preparation will be there. And I think it's a good move that there will be no visiting recruits to put those teams in the SEC championship behind this year. That week, because Georgia often takes that week to simply game plan. Their sole focus is on the SEC championship, and so it had been a disadvantage at times for those teams that were in the SEC championship. But I'm thinking about the weekend after the SEC championship is the weekend that you'll see some guys, some big time guys on campus. But I'm not expecting much up until then. But you better believe that after the SEC championship's over, Georgia's going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and Georgia also typically in the month of December, when after the SEC championship game's over and they've got that kind of not lull period, but they're getting prepped for college football playoff, and all it is just kind of normal run of the mill, practice, lifting, all that kind of stuff, and the coaches have a little bit more time. They bring in some big recruits, and we're going to get to some of those guys. Nichols Harbor being one of them. He's told rivals that he will be in Georgia, in Athens, for an official visit December 16th through 18th. And you might have to correct me, Try. I think he was one that was thinking about waiting until February to sign. I'm not necessarily sure that he'll be an early enrollee, but even if that's the case, if he does wait till February, having a athlete the caliber of Nichols Harbor in December for an official visit when you didn't even think you were necessarily in the ball game for him a couple of weeks ago, that's huge for Georgia, because they're apparently, he tells rivals that he's being recruited as a tight end by Todd Hartley.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting approach. With Georgia already having two tight end commits and being in on Deuce Robinson, it'll be interesting to see what happens when he's on campus and when they get in those meetings, because I mean you're talking about a dynamic athlete. You know,
Into
I,
I think
it,
it's into 8 in the 100, I believe. I mean, he can
it
absolutely.
doesn't matter really what position he plays. He's a guy that could probably line up at wide receiver, like a Deuce Robinson. He's just that good of an athlete, and it'll be interesting to see what type of recruiting approach they take with him, and even if defense is something that's talked about, because I think one of the big needs for Georgia just to hit on this class is edge, and with the edge players, I know Mapimba and I know Damon Wilson is coming down, getting closer to a commitment, visiting Ohio State this weekend. So I know edge is a priority, especially the way Georgia has lacked the depth this year. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting coming into that visit to see what happens and the approach Georgia takes.
And Nichols Harbor is a guy that you really kind of like a KJ Bolden. You tell them whatever they want to hear to just get them in the building, and that you let the chips fall where they may after it. He ends up not being a tight end. He ends up moving to the other side of the ball. You never know, but I mean, just
Yeah,
really.
I'm not expecting him to sign until February though. So,
And listen, he's the kind of guy that legitimately he's considering being a professional track and field athlete. That is not out of the realm of possibility for him to forego college altogether and be like, I'm going to go run track professionally. That's how fast this young man is. So unbelievable athlete, and somebody you got to watch for. And like we said, with Matayo Uiagalelei, same thing. Not in the picture a couple of weeks ago. It looks like David Hobbs is going to Tennessee. Georgia's still looking for a five technique, somebody that can fit that role, and Matayo Uiagalelei could definitely do that. And whether they get him on campus this weekend for the Georgia Tech game, or if he waits till that December period, that's another guy that could fit a huge need for this class, Trent.
yeah, and this is a guy that I'm sure all of you recognize the name, but
Yeah.
this is the guy that, like you said, wasn't on Georgia's radar. And this is the guys that we talked about. There's a lot of guys that have popped up. This guy communicated. This guy reached out to Georgia. This
Yeah.
was, Georgia was on him, early on in the process. There wasn't much back and forth. Communication kind of died out. He reached back out to Georgia this fall. So this is just another example of players just wanting to be in Athens, or want to get that feel of Athens because of what's going on, what Kirby's got going on here at Georgia. Because a lot of people looked at Georgia this year and said, oh, they're going to take a step back. There's no way they're going to make a playoff run. Alabama's loaded. A lot of teams are loaded. Ohio State might be the best they've ever been, and here we are. Getting closer to Thanksgiving, December, and Georgia's the number one team in the country once again. So just a absolute great job by the Georgia staff, and I think the recruiting is going to show off for that here in a couple weeks.
And there's that connection there with St. John's Bosco, who Georgia is in great position with 2024 safety Peyton Woodyard in that class, or in that on that team out there. I'm not sure that they end up getting DeAndre Moore now, but they definitely got in his top 2-3 of schools. It looks like Louisville's actually, for a long time, it looked like he would definitely flip from Louisville, but Louisville, man, all I can say is Louisville must have found a way to utilize the NIL process trip, because there ain't a whole lot on the field to be excited about, but they got some guys stacked up over there like DeAndre Moore, the running back from Texas escapes my name right now, but Madden Saints out of Georgia. Who's the running back? He's a man. I'm losing my mind. I'll
I know who you're talking about.
He's from Texas that Georgia was in on.
We had the connection with Arch Manning, and I understand.
Yeah, I'll look it up here in just a minute. Oh, Ruben Owens.
Ruben Owens.
Thank you, Jeremy. I lost it there for a second, but yeah, Ruben Owens. He's over there for sure, and it's interesting there. But yet again, Georgia making connections out there at St. John's Bosco, and there's Matayo Uiagalelei. So he probably saw Georgia recruiting all those guys, and to your point, wanted to kind of rekindle that conversation over there. So very interesting for sure. All right, we got a lot more questions here we got to hit. Andy So said, are you hearing of any flips coming to UGA if UGA does in fact get some big time flips? Who would be the odd man out in the class to make room? I don't know that there's going to be a position when it comes to flips where Georgia would have to force anybody out necessarily. Trent, I think this is a class where you could see him take as many as 28 kids in this 28 prospects in this class. So I'm not sure anybody would get necessarily forced out. Maybe tight end could be the only one that would be crowded. But listen, Austin Lunkey's a Georgia legacy, and I don't see Kirby Smart, saying, hey, we need you to bump out of the class. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't see any. I think you would see, some of Georgia's players hit the transfer portal before you saw many guys, pushed out of this class. I think this class is pretty solid. I mean, there's going to be that maybe one player that decides to go elsewhere, but it's still. I don't think Georgia's going to do much pushing out because they have the spots available. At tight end, you got to think, Darnell Washington's going to go the pro route. I mean, the guy. I know stats wise, it doesn't always show it, but he is the MVP of that offense week in and week out. And I think he's going to go, and that's going to allow Georgia to bring in a couple tight ends. So it depends on what happens with the rest of the tight ends in the room. I could see like a Brett Sather or something like that deciding to transfer out, get some playing time, but we'll see what happens. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying it'll be interesting to see what exactly happens to that position to open up spots, but I don't see Georgia pushing commits out in the spot.
Yeah, I don't see them pushing commits out. And then the flips that are most likely right now, I think everybody's got their eyes, of course, on Anthony Evans, wide receiver. Georgia wants desperately to get another talented wide receiver in this class. So Anthony Evans, who's currently committed to Oklahoma, it came down to Georgia and Oklahoma the first time. Brian McClendon has not given up. He was back in town for that Tennessee game. Of course, Justice Haynes was also in town for that Tennessee game, and everybody knows his background as a Georgia legacy. And we've said over and over again that that's not going to be a situation that's done until the ink dries over there on signing day. And Trent, quite honestly, I think that Buford's early exit from the playoffs works in Georgia's favor a little bit, because now there's no playoffs to consider, and I think he can think about his recruitment a little bit more and stuff like that, and maybe gives Georgia some more time to talk to him and things of those nature while he's not preparing for a run in a state championship.
Yeah, and I mean the guy was everything for Buford Friday night. Although they lost on the scoreboard, he definitely did his part. He was just dynamic on the field, and just watching him, he's just there's a reason why he's the best running back in the country, and there's a reason why Georgia hasn't stopped recruiting him. It ain't because it's Brian Haynes' son; it's because he's number one running back in the country, and he's a good kid, and so is Georgia's going to continue to work there. Georgia has been working there, and I think what we talked about on the way, Ohio State's continue to work there, but I think that right now the focus is on Alabama and Georgia, which one is best for him as a person, not best for him as Brian Haynes' son, but best for him, and I think Georgia's made a big move there. But we'll see what happens. With him having time to think. He's a big, uh, uh, God person, and he says he sits down and prays a lot about his situations, and so we'll see. He'll have plenty of time to sit down and get all the information he needs and make the best decision for him.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting for sure. Here's the thing about Justice Haynes, by the way. If you just go and look at his where he ranks all time in GHSA yards in terms of all the things he done. I mean, he passed Herschel Walker last year, as his junior year, at the end of his junior year, with yards and touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. He's a Hall of Famer in terms of Georgia high school football. Justice Haynes will one day be a GHSA Hall of Famer. So, that's the kind of caliber of athlete you're bringing in. It's not just because he played, he played in some tough competition down there when 3A was pretty sporty with Blessed Trinity, and then came up to, of course, play on 7A his senior year. So that's why Georgia is so hot and heavy after him. But those are the main people that they're looking to flip. Of course, you always got to keep an eye out for, maybe some of those linemen, Basantis, Shanahan, things like that over at Texas A&M, particularly if LSU, lays the smackdown on them this weekend and just takes things from bad to worse over there. But who knows? Some of those NIL deals might be binding already, Trent. They may not be able to leave.
Yeah, I mean that's a show over there, and that's why I'm more interested in what's going to happen with this transfer portal because, like I said, Georgia's going to have the spots, but uh, that's going to be another dynamic in this whole situation. Is yes, Georgia's going to have spots available, but how many spots available are they going to be able to take, to end this class and add to from the transfer portal in this window? And that's going to be very interesting to see because if Georgia doesn't is not able to flip Justice Haynes, they're going to be out for a running back in the portal. If Georgia only lands one more wide receiver in this class, they're going to be looking for a dynamic wide receiver to come in. Um, outside linebacker. They would love some depth at that position, especially somebody that's been in college for a year. So those are just three of the positions that I'm looking at that Georgia could really attack in this transfer portal.
Absolutely. Our next question here is from the Boy Racer 45. As of today, 1 month from the early signing period, how do you think Georgia finishes this class? Trent, I've said for a couple of weeks now, I think with what's remaining out there, where Georgia sits with guys, I think they're a favorite for Impemba, a favorite for a Jordan Hall. They're right there in the top two for Damon Wilson, right there neck and neck with Ohio State. And then, of course, the offensive weapons they're pursuing as well, with what they already have sitting at number 5 in the country and a lot left on the bone here. I just feel like Georgia is definitely a top 2 class before 2023 is said and done with. I mean, what's your feeling on things?
Yeah, I think they're going to finish in the top 3 for sure. I think that the moving up to number 1 is going to depend on number 1, the flip of Anthony Evans and the flip of Justice Haynes, and after that, I think where Deuce Robinson lands. I think those 3 players could really dictate taking Georgia from two or 3 to number 1.
Or if you get on a guy like a Nichols Harbor,
Yeah.
if a Nichols Harbor, that's somebody that Nichols Harbor or Matayo Uiagalelei that you weren't expecting a couple of weeks ago. Those are the type of things. And Kirby Smart always seems to have a little something up his sleeve right there at the end of all the signing classes, something that nobody typically sees coming. So don't rule that out either, whether it's a flip that people didn't see, something along those lines. But we've got some more questions here, but real quick, do want to mention, as you see at the bottom, we're presented by Turner Wood and Smith Insurance in cooperation with Auto Owners. You can go to twsinsurance.com or auto-owners.com for all your life, home, car, and business insurance needs. Guys, I know personally that they have great policies at Auto Owners that take care of you when you need it. And then, of course, if you need help navigating any of that stuff, Turner Wood and Smith is going to give you great customer service. So make sure to check out Turner Wood and Smith. They can service anybody in the country. They handle people from all over the country. Yes, they're based out of Gainesville, Georgia, but been around since 1905 and have a great team over there that can get you helped out. So give Trey Wood and those guys a call over at Turner Wood and Smith Insurance. All right. Joe DeCo says, does recruiting Harbor at tight end reflect how we feel on Deuce? Also, Justice Haynes will follow his heart and choose UGA very similarly to how Sting spurred the NWO in 1997. So, Trent, I love the wrestling reference. Sting gave the NWO the okie doke, come out there, had the white and black on, and then ripped it off and, gave everybody the Scorpion Death Drop. So maybe that's what Justice Haynes does. If that does happen, we'll have to make a meme of Justice Haynes giving Nick Saban the Scorpion Death Drop. But how do you feel about Harbor being recruited as a tight end? Is that maybe Georgia waving the white flag a little bit on Deuce Robinson and, USC having a big win this weekend?
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it has to do more that Harbor's is wanting to be recruited on the offensive side of the ball rather than defense. I think that has more to do with the approach Georgia's taken at this point than then you have one of your best recruiters in Todd Hartley on him and trying to get him on campus. Hartley is as everybody knows, he gets who he wants basically, and so I don't think it's anything to do with Deuce. I think it has a lot to do with what Harbor is telling Georgia and a way for Georgia to get him on campus for an official visit. And you bring him in and you see where it goes. So I don't think it has anything to do with Deuce. I think it has a lot to do with just Nichols and getting him on campus and just reflective of where he sees himself right now wanting to play at the collegiate level.
There we go. We got to get some NWO style, like rumors versus facts shirts and put out there. I think that would be some great merch. Put in the chat if you'd buy an RVF style shirt, like the old NWO shirts. If you'd buy some of that merch, support the show, drop it in the chat. We'd love to provide you with some of that.
We can put Nil on the back.
No doubt. NIL, we could go NIL with the old NWO letters. I mean, there's endless possibilities over there. All right, Speedy Dog says, who will be the last minute surprise recruit that we signed this year? All right, Trent. So
I think everybody knows who I'm thinking because this is who everybody's been thinking the whole time. I think it's. I think it's. I've always said if it happens, it's going to happen last minute. I think it'd be Justice Haynes, and I said I've always had a feeling one way or other that the final decision is not going to come to right before he puts that ink on the paper. And so I think if there's a biggest last minute surprise, it will be Justice Haynes. Not saying it's going to be Justice Haynes, but I think it will be if that does in fact happen.
Yeah, I can see that happening late if that goes down. And right now, publicly, at least, Justice is saying all the right things in terms of staying committed to Alabama. So that's what the young man's saying. But just telling you, I know for a fact that there's inner workings being done there, and there's Georgia's trying to chisel away at that commitment there. So that would be one I would say. I'm trying to think of anybody else that's just off the wall out there that could be a little bit.
I think Anthony Evans could, if this happens, it's going to happen before. And I think an announcement would come before. I don't think it's just going to be a late minute surprise. Yeah. I think a lot will depend on who shows up these next 2 weeks after the SEC championship. There's going to be commits committed elsewhere show up and visit, and anything can happen.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't have a specific name for you, Trent, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a big time defensive back, particularly a corner that that Georgia has, recruited. I don't know whether it's a name similar to like a Javian Toviano or one of those type guys that they were in on early. Heck, a Cormani McLean, like, somebody of that ilk to that Georgia has had a little bit of a relationship before. If let's say Georgia theoretically goes out and just curb stomps LSU, okay, just takes them to the woodshed and national television, and people see, well, Georgia just won a national championship, and now they're undefeated, and they've just won another SEC championship. I think I may take an official up to Athens, before signing day. And I could see a big time DB, especially with people knowing that Keely Ringo's going to be gone after this year. They lose Christopher Smith at safety, and Georgia interchanges their DBs and moves them all around, does different things. I could see a big time DB taking a flyer on Georgia late.
Yeah, and that's another Kirby and Muschamp and those guys, Fran Brown, all excellent in that department. And you always see a defensive back pop up late, and it doesn't happen. I mean, it happens every single class. You always wonder, why the heck are they taking another defensive back in this class? Well, look who that staff is. Kirby and Muschamp, and those guys are gonna. That's a position they're always going to focus on, bringing those. Dynamic defensive backs in there, and you brought up a good point with McLean, and this is a guy who spurned a team that lost to Florida, lost to Vanderbilt to go to Miami, who's just straight up trash. But also, talking about that, another thing that is the NIL that you have to watch, and a lot of these guys are already working on those. So it'll be, like I said, it's going to be interesting the next 3 weeks, and we'll be at UGA Sports to bring it to you.
Absolutely. We'll be right there covering all of it, whether it's a surprise or not. And if it is coming down the pike, you'll know about it before anybody else if you're a member over at UGAsports.com, especially frequenting the vault over there. Make sure to do us a favor. There's lots of people tuned in right now. I mean, hundreds of people in here tuned in right now. Do us a couple things here. Hit that like button. It's free. Hit the subscribe button if you don't already. And then just share this out on social media, whether you tweet out the link or put it on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. You hitting the like button and doing those kind of things helps the algorithms, helps more Georgia fans see it and get informed of UGA recruiting here. So that helps us out a lot too. All right, R Hall 55. How many recruits did we get in this class? So that's question one. If you had to say today, what's your over? If you had to set a Vegas over under trend on this class number, what would it be?
We're
going 27 and a half for the over.
I mean, I think 27 and a half would be the number to go with, but it's for sure over if you're going portal with this. And and I think the portal is included in this class. So I'm bump it up to 28 and a half just to, include the portal. But I think Georgia's going over that number either way. So
yeah, and we've talked about the surprise addition already. Which recruit will be the biggest surprise loss? I think
the biggest surprise loss has already happened, and
Daniel Harris, maybe.
And Georgia's still working on trying to get him back in the class, and they're going to continue to battle there. I know Penn State's big in it, so you got more names.
Well, for what it's worth, our counterparts at the Penn State rivals site are hearing from their sources very confident about Daniel Harris over there. Georgia's, like as Trent mentioned, working real hard to try to get back in the good graces there and try to get him in there. He's never lost contact with Fran Brown and through all this, so they're still working there. The two guys that take the most visits elsewhere that are currently committed are Lawson Lucky and Bo Hewley. So those are the two guys that continue to visit places and stuff like that. So if Georgia did lose one of those two, I don't know necessarily you'd count it as a surprise because of how much they have visited other places while being committed, Trent. But, those would be the two most likely if there's anybody that does decide to opt out.
I don't think you're going to see just a random kid that's been committed for so long and you haven't heard much about visiting, just pop up and decommit and commit elsewhere. I think Georgia has pretty much their class locked in, and they're just working on adding to it for the most part.
Yeah, Greg Rosenberg said, didn't Hewley attend LSU Bama instead of UGA Tennessee? I believe he did. I believe he did go out to LSU for that game. So definitely something to just keep an eye on there and monitor. And of course, we'll do that. GA Doggo 9, we kind of touched on this already. He said, are we recruiting Harbor only as a tight end? You know, Trent mentioned right now that's what he's wanting to be recruited as. So Kirby says, "Hey, let me introduce you to this man named Todd Hartley over here," and then just lets him talk to him. So, you know, we'll see what ends up transpiring when he comes December 16th through 18th for an official visit. John Adams, 88. Any bias for targeting early enrollee players who may be rated slightly less over non-early enrollees? So, you know, Trent, what do you think there? Do you think you know, the preference now from these stabs are finding guys that can early enroll because of the advantage you get with getting them there, you know, as a mid-year guy in January instead of having to wait till August of their freshman year?
It there is an advantage, but there's also a mixed sort because you see every year that Georgia has to take a couple guys and push them back in enrollment because of you got to have the spot, you got to have the 85, and I think that's the important thing that we got to remember is when you bring guys in, you got to have those spots available on campus, whether it's guys that are going pro, whether it's guys that are graduating, whether it's guys that are transferring out. You've got to have those spots available on campus, and I think Georgia has a good recollection of what the number can be for what they can bring in, but you know that they can't go over that number, and so it works both ways. That they need, you know, their slew of guys, especially at positions of need, that they're recruiting to come in early, that they know that they're going to be slim at the next year, and then there's those guys that they can afford to you know, take in the spring and you know, take a year of development, or even you know, feel good about where they are. You know, from a physical standpoint, to come in and you know, contribute right away.
Can see Animal 31 or Canimal 31 says, are we recruiting anyone who can convince Monken to start targeting Bowers again or throw to Darnell in the red zone? So he's wanting to recruit as for somebody to assist Monken in the booth. That's what he's wanting to recruit. Listen,
well, you know who sits next to Monken in the booth. It's the tight end coach.
Exactly.
So you can't get much better than what you have sitting next to him.
Yeah, and I'm just telling you, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Georgia was not, I mean, with the wind was stout. I mean, gust up to 20, 25 miles an hour. I think it got down to low 20s in that game. Listen, Stetson Bennett, great quarterback for Georgia. He's doing great things, but he's got them little Burger King hands. You remember the commercial with the guy with the little Burger King hands? Listen, sometimes when you got small hands, you know, being able to hold on to
the Stetson's hands are a whole inch longer than Aaron Murray's. So
yeah,
not Aaron Murray, but Jake Fromm's. Fromm had eight, 9 hands, and Stetson's got around 9 hands. So he's more towards the NFL, but still, it is not good conditions to throw in. And you know, I know he got off to a rough start. Stetson let some balls, you know, as they Dane and Brett have talked about this week on you know, breaking down the game and showing some of those missed throws, and he just he let the too much air under him at times, and you know, the wind took a hold of him, and this was a game, and this was a game to take Georgia back to the 2018 early years of Kirby that said, "Hey, we're up 16-0. We're going to run the football, and you can't score 16 on my defense." And that's the way they felt, and that's the way that's why they went on. Yes, and I do agree with Darnell in the red zone. I would throw it to him every single time as long as they got a cornerback on him. I would make them stop it. And yes, 100% agree with you.
Of course, I'm being facetious with Stetson's hands. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying he's not the biggest guy in the world, so unless he's just abnormal, I would imagine that could be an issue at certain times.
He is a little abnormal, though.
Yeah. But I'm just saying. So we'll see. I can imagine anybody gripping the football and throwing it, unless you just got like Brett Favre arm, and those kind of conditions are, a little bit different. So I think
And that's one
getting
thing
in
Will Levis
great game.
has is
Yeah,
Will Levis has a Matthew Stafford type arm. Not saying he's up here, and the accuracy with the football is definitely needs a lot of improvement, but he has the arm to throw it through that wind. And
yeah,
Stetson has a great arm. Don't get
yeah.
me wrong. Stetson
He's
has a
got
better arm than
talented
Jake
arm.
Fromm, but
Exactly.
there's still there's a little bit of a difference.
Absolutely. And our last question here is from Simpson 0627. Deuce Harbor, Lucky Sperlin. If they all say they're coming, what does Kirby Smart do besides give Hartley a raise? I mean,
Nothing.
I
Say
don't
hell
know.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do. We get, maybe give him a little more time off. Hartley's a big family guy. That could be a nice reward. A little bit more time with his family, that kind of stuff. But other than that, I
You
mean,
tell
Hartley.
Hartley that he can have off until after the national championship game recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So what? I mean, he's got to be one of the most highly paid tight end coaches in the country. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
he's got to be. So I don't know that how much more you give him raise, but he's unbelievable on the trail for sure.
yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. All right, so here we go. Let's touch on YouTube real quick. Any quick questions on the YouTube chat? If anybody's got something, throw it in there. We'll try to answer it real quick. But other than kind of what we've talked about, Trent, now it's just kind of the next week or so. It's wait and see mode. Getting through the Georgia Tech, getting a lot of young guys on campus, 26 class, 25 class, 24 class. A lot of these younger guys, underclassmen, let them see what a game day environment's like. Let them get acquainted with some of the recruiting staff, and then Georgia's going to be focused on trying to win its second SEC championship while under Kirby Smart's tenure. And then I think after that is when you really see the heavy lifting come into play here.
The most important thing to Kirby and his staff right now, and I know recruiting never takes a back seat to that staff, but the most important thing to them is the number one seed, because you get to play in Atlanta, and you get to you looking at the teams, you're going to play somebody like if Michigan slipped in, if they lost and slipped in, or USC or a TCU, and you get to play them in your backyard. So I think that is the number one goal for the staff right now: is beat Georgia Tech, beat LSU, get the number one seed. Then let's go land a class. And yes, there's going to be some recruiting done in between this and there, but I think that number one seed is very important in this situation.
Well, there you have it, guys. If nobody's got anything here on the YouTube chat, he said, well, we do have one here from Jeremy Barbary here. He says, any commits before early signing day? I think you'll see, of course, Samuel Mpemba announces on December 4th, the day after the SEC championship game. I think that he'll, he sits good with Georgia. I think you could see Jordan Hall end up committing before signing day. I think you could see Damon Wilson if he in fact chooses Georgia. Listen, we always say that one game doesn't determine things, Trent. But if Michigan goes on there and does to Ohio State what they did to Ohio State last year, that would probably give a guy like Damon Wilson a little bit of room for pause there on that kind of deal. So
Yeah,
Georgia,
and you're going to Ohio in late November. So
yeah.
let's see how that is.
He said in a quote to our Ryan Riot at Rivals, he said, man, I really want to go somewhere where I'm going to enjoy living for the next 4 years. So who knows what that weather is going to be like in Columbus as well. So Georgia and Ohio State not only potentially going head to head for a national championship this year, but they're going head to head for Damon Wilson. They're going head to head for Matayo Uiagalelei, it seems like now. So lots of guys they're going head to head for. So, but with that is Trent Smallwood. I'm Blaine Gilmer. This has been UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts, presented by Turner Wood and Smith and Auto Owners Insurance. Check out their links in the description. Make sure to hit subscribe, turn on notifications to catch Jim Donnan and Roddy and Dane and Brent and everybody on the channel, that Paul, everybody that goes live every time, every week here on the UGA Sports YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys next Monday night on UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts.